David Brewster here with a new episode of Chordplay. This is the Chords of Dweezil Zappa, and I've had some requests to feature more of Dweezil's music, and if you search around on my channel, you'll find a Three-For-All episode from about a year ago surrounding Dweezil, not to mention a Three-For-All and a Chordplay episode related to his dad, the legendary Frank Zappa. And I love Frank Zappa for sure, I'm a huge fan, but I'm also a big Dweezil Zappa fan too, and technically I was aware of Dweezil and Dweezil's music before I was aware of Frank and Frank's music. You know, my sister and I used to watch MTV, hardcore, and Dweezil popped up on MTV, quite frequently until he was unceremoniously fired. I think he was on Howard Stern and was kind of talking smack about MTV and he got fired. But regardless, definitely Dweezil's a legendary guitarist from a legendary family. I definitely had a blast putting this episode together. So here we go. And as far as Dweezil's music, of course, he's been a solo artist technically since 1982 when he released his first single, and he appeared and worked with his father, not to mention his sister, Moon Unit Zappa, on some music. And then he's also worked with Extreme and Nuno Betancourt. He appears on Dixie Dregs albums and Winger, and there's a whole bunch of stuff. But here's an image with some of the groups and artists that Dweezil's worked with in his career. Dweezil's career started in 1982, and I imagine that's a very special year for him because during that year he actually picked up a guitar lesson from Eddie Van Halen, also a guitar as a gift. Eddie also produced his first single, My Mother's a Space Cadet, and then he also grabbed some lessons from Steve Vai, who was working with Frank's band, his dad. So that's incredible. Can you imagine being 12 years old and getting guitar lessons from Eddie Van Halen, Steve Vai, and then Van Halen's producing your first single? That's mind-blowing. So the music and chord-based examples in this episode came from two Dweezil Zappa solo albums, and Dweezil's released 6 solo albums under his own name, not to mention 2 albums under the name Z with his brother Ahmet, and then 6, live albums where he's playing, basically Zappa plays Zappa, live music where he's interpreting his dad's music. But this episode's going to focus on his music and his solo output. So here we go. With the opening, that's the song Earth, the opening track from the album Confessions from 1991. And if you haven't heard Dweezil's album Confessions, it's the Nuno Betancourt produced album. That album rocks, it rules. But something like this. Something like that. So it starts with this D power chord, and then the low E open to that A note, and then you're going to grab an A over C sharp, like that. And that low E to the A note's kind of quick in there, like that. Then these octaves, think of like Black and Blue by Van Halen, and then that G, A, G to that low E power chord right there. And this little fill, like E blues right there. Then start it again. And you got this really crafty kind of chord hit. So you're hitting this open A to C sharp to D, then the open D to that C sharp to A, and then that open A to G sharp to the low E, right, like that. And then you've got this chromatic, kind of walking in there. So it's very busy, and it happens right after those chord hits. And that's going to take you right back into that D, right, like this. Right back back into D, you do everything again. And the last time, you're kind of treating that chord hit a little bit differently, a different rhythm, and you're kind of letting it ring a little differently. You kind of hear those top strings, you know, at the end right there. Cool, very cool riff, very cool song too. Next up, You Can't Imagine. This came from the album Havin A Bad Day, and it totally has this classic 80s like hard rock and British metal kind of sound, like Iron Maiden or Saxon or something like this. We're in A, obviously, right there, and it's starting with these implied chords, you know, kind of bouncing off the D and the G string, and it starts with that A sus4 implied right there, like that 7th fret, you know, bar, to an A minor 7, that 5th fret bar, like that. And right there, you're kind of grabbing that A7 sus2, now grabbing that B note, like that. You're going down to this A power chord, and you're kind of playing with that G. Like that last time after that little, that's like the open A, low E open, and then that fretted G note kind of with some vibrato, like that. So that first pass, and do it again, and then right there, you're kind of doing that little walk down single notes. Like that. And then right there, the last time you're doing this little, that walk down and then F, G to A. Totally sounds like Saxon or somebody, but that song kicks ass. Next up's I Want A Yacht. This is also from Havin A Bad Day, and this actually has Bobcat Goldthwait as a guest, which he's not really singing. He's just kind of being Bobcat and screeching and screaming. Classic song and a cool riff like this. Something like that. So it actually starts with this glorified E5, and we're in E right there, like this. So you're really just kind of barring that B, E, and then grabbing that higher B right there. And then that's going to move to that A right there, which is an E sus4 implied. And then you're going to basically, you're going to kind of play with the sus2 there, that F sharp back to E. And then that F sharp's going to go up to a G sharp, like an implied E major. So there's a little melody happening right here. Back to this E7 flat 9 right here, and then it's E sus4 to E major. And you repeat all that again. And that's the riff. gotta give it up for Bobcat. I love Bobcat Goldthwait for sure. Next up's a riff from Obviously Influenced by the Devil, and this is from the album Confessions once again. And this totally has this Eddie Van Halen, Steve Vai kind of hybrid sound, which Dweezil studied with both guitarists, so that might be why. But something like this. Something like that. So we're in A, and we're basically flirting with this A sus2 and then also A major. We're kind of grabbing this B and that C sharp there. So once again, there's like a chord, like a melodic chord thing happening here. Right, so it's A, but then you're kind of changing that B and C sharp. And then right there, it's A7 sus4 to A7. Right, and then right there, it's like an A6 sus4 now. So, and you kind of hear that kind of arpeggiated, and that's still kind of A6 sus4. So that first pass, right? Something like that. Start it again. And then it's like a D over A to like a D sus2 over A right there. And then you're going to move that back to like a C sus2 over A, which that's actually like an A minor, like an A minor 11, I guess. Right? Something like that. And then you start that A riff again. And the second time through, there's like a scale run, like that. You kind of add a chromatic note at the end, like that, and then start it again. And you do that kind of D to that C move again, or that D to A minor 11. Killer song, so check that out for sure. Obviously Influenced by the Devil kicks ass. Next up's a clean guitar part from the song Helpless. This came from the album Confessions once again, and I'm a big fan of guitar parts like this, where you hold down a chord and then you start changing the root note, which changes the tonality and kind of the implied sound of that chord, like this. It's like the intro, kind of short and sweet. But we're going to start with this. And that's like a C sharp minor 9 right there. Like that, implied C sharp minor 9. And then change the root note to B, and now it's a B add 11. Right? Now you're going to change the root note to a G sharp, right? And that's a G sharp minor flat 6 now, implied. Play the open A. Now the root note's A, and now it's an A sus2 add sharp 11. Like that. So just by changing the root note, you have this kind of 4-chord progression implied like this. The last time right there, grab an F sharp now. They kind of exaggerate the chord, and that's going to be an implied F sharp 13 sus4, and then just end with that E5, you know, power chord like this. Last but not least, this is from the song Shoogagoogagunga, which is from the album Confessions once again. And don't forget, there's also the son of Shoogagoogagunga, but this is just regular Shoogagoogagunga, which then just rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it? And we're in drop D tuning for this. It's super aggressive and busy, like this. Something like that. So we're basically in drop D, and it's revolving around D. And once again, Dweezil's kind of grabbing like these implied partial chords. So there's kind of this melodic chord thing happening like this. And that's kind of the Shoogagoogagunga right there. But we're going to start with D minor right there. And D sus2 implied. D5. C5 over D. Then a G over B. And that's the Shoogagoogagunga. So slowly. And then you do it again. And then the second time, just let that G over B ring into that C5. And that's at least the opening riff. And that Shoogagoogagunga, like it's missing the drums. The drums definitely accent that part. But that's a cool, just ass-kicking riff. And like the last time through right there, you can let those two chords ring. And then it's an F power chord like that. To a C power chord. And then you can kind of choose your own adventure. You can go to a D here or an open position D. That's up to you. You know, whichever way you want to do it. But cool riff. Alright, that's going to wrap this episode of Chordplay with the Chords of Dweezil Zappa. Definitely, I'm a huge fan of Dweezil's music and him, and really anything related to the Zappa family. I love Frank, and there's just something about that family. I don't know what it is. This artistic, kind of creative and humorous, approach to almost everything. And with Dweezil's music, I mean, you have that nice hybrid between Van Halen-isms, Steve Vai-isms, and then also Frank Zappa-isms. So you take those three things and stir it up together, and you definitely have a very interesting guitar style, lying in Dweezil Zappa's music. And there's a lot more to him than just copying, his father or Van Halen or Steve Vai. He definitely has his own voice and kind of musical, direction. And it does seem like whenever he's just kind of playing around, he almost always falls back into Van Halen type stuff, tapping and using certain effects and certain kind of chord riffs and stuff like that. You can definitely hear it and see it in Dweezil's music. That Van Halen influence is everywhere. So anyway, leave some feedback and comments. Please subscribe to Night Lessons, and I'll be back before you know with more content and material. Thank you.